for every success, there's been hundreds of misfires. So I want everybody to understand that as you move forward, don't expect everything to roll out as you think it's going to roll out. You kind of just got to go along with it, stay in touch with that voice in your head, and eventually things will work out. Probably not the way you plan, but they always work out better.
You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author, professional speaker, and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Reitman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, where we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is no different because I got another fabulous author in the house, a multi-talented human being. Because today's guest is the president of Ferro Productions, as well as a multiple Emmy award-winning production company owner, as well as industry leader in innovative broadcast and digital video production. Because my man right here, not only that, he has 2 Super Bowl rings, 2 of them. And he didn't even have to tackle anybody. Like, dude, that's like one of the best things ever. And on top of that, he's also an author as well. So you got to be wondering, who in the world is this guy who's got 2 Super Bowl rings without tackling a person? And also writing multiple books, especially about music and the MIDI keyboard. It's the one, the only Joe Cool himself, Mr. Joe Scacciaferro. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. That's a pretty big build-up. Hope I can stay a little close to it as we move along.
Oh, yeah, you'll stay close to it as much as you decide to. If you talk about cactuses, I'll tell you okay.
So here we go, huh?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So that was just a short little glimpse into the wonderful world of everybody's favorite cup of coffee. Mind filling in some cavities where I missed some fillings?
Oof, I could probably take up the rest of the podcast. My story, as a lot of people who know me refer to me, I am the Forrest Gump of the entertainment industry. Things
that.
just happen. I end up in places that for the most part I shouldn't be. And after I'm there, I kind of just move along and things happen. And I consider myself and am truly blessed. I've been put on a path and I have yet figured out why, but I just continue along and follow the voice and see where it leads me. Okay, so some hard milestone facts. I started out in a urban, how's that for a word? Urban community. I was a funk bass player, and unique because when you're a funk bass player in the late 70s, early 80s, and you're white, it makes for a very interesting travel.
Yep.
People weren't as open-minded as they might be today, especially being that instrument. So, and then that led me, I'm in New York City, so that led me to a lot of studio work in the city. So to keep studio working, or to keep myself working in the studios, I learned about engineering, audio engineering. That kept me in the studio, and I was able to fill in for bass sessions when they needed to be. And then I was told, hey, if you really want to get more engineering gigs, you should really be technical. So technical, I went back to school and got an EE, my engineering degree. And it was right at the time when digital was becoming the mainstay of everything. So when I graduated, or during that time also, it was, again, like I said, early 80s. Synthesizers were just really coming of age. They had been around, but nobody really, it didn't click yet on the music side. So I came out with this very unique background. I have all my music side and I'm connected there, and I know what I'm doing musically. I can speak to musicians, and I was technical, so I could speak to a lot of the engineers who were building these synthesizers. So that put me in a cool position in New York. And I was living on both sides of both the music and the tech. And then things just went from there. I started an engineering company that sort of supported this new age community. That led to a lot of unique connections that put me on Broadway with Andrew Lloyd Webber, that put me on the West Coast with jobs in Apple when Apple was just a fledgling computer company trying to find a niche market, which they did in the entertainment world. And from there, I know all of this sounds ridiculous. At one point, a very good friend of mine, Steve DeFuria, who was Frank Zappa's keyboard player. Steve's a great programmer. Steve kind of said to me, a lot of people don't understand musically how to use this gear. So the two of us started teaching, and it looked more like an AA meeting. We used my engineering room, set up some folding chairs. And it was funny because if I start rattling off the names of the people that were sitting in those chairs, learning from Steve and I, it would almost sound impossible. That led us to, let's put this on a piece of paper and hand it out rather than keep saying it. That led to Steve and I actually authoring a book, which we had no idea how to remember where I was educated. I had no business writing anything. That book led us to thinking about, it would be better if we did a video about this because people could see and hear it. There were no videos at the time. It was still the battle of beta tape versus VHS. And in the music world, there weren't how-tos, there weren't any of this. And I know for a lot of you younger folk, it seems impossible that there were no way to just YouTube something or see a video on something. It just didn't exist. So Steve and I did a video not having any idea what we were doing, relied on a friend who was just getting into the television industry. We shot a really bad training video. And we took that, and Steve and I went to the trade show in the music industry, set up a folding chair and tried to sell it. Again, we had no idea what we were doing, but we just went ahead and did it, sort of a lemmings approach to things. And one of the publishing companies, a Hal Leonard Publishing, Keith Mardak, who was the CEO at the time, approached us, looked at what we were doing and said, hey, Hal Leonard's looking to open up a book division for the music industry. They are the world's largest music publisher, whoever doesn't know that, but they had no books at the time. So they tossed the tape, said, no, we don't need video, but we'll take the book. And then Steve and I became authors. We went on to publish 15 books with them. And that kind of set up another career. But meanwhile, I still had the engineering and we were still involved heavily in the music recording world. Now, this is where it gets, again, a little off base. And I'm sorry I'm dominating, but I told you the story's long and involved.
It's all good. Keep going, man.
So somewhere along this point, my first daughter was born and Val had Down syndrome. So I found out that there was amazing people out there that just came out of the woodwork, all volunteers. I always look for somebody who's got an end. If somebody's doing something nice, what's the hook? There was no hook. I met a group of people that were just amazing, truly angels. They came down, we involved with them. So for 5 years, I was engulfed in this community that was wonderful. And this does have a point to what I do professionally. So at the end of 5 years, Val goes into public school, and I wanted to do something for all the people that had helped us. And I did what I do, which was write a song. And I put this song together. And at the time, I had two major artists that I was working with in the studio. I had them look at the song, take a listen to it. They both offered to record it as a charity event. This was around the time when Live Aid, Band Aid, all these charity things were happening. So it was chic to do this. Unfortunately, we got into a bit of a label war. They were both on different labels, who wanted it, who didn't want it. And then, like I said, there's a destiny to everything, and I just follow the voice. A very close friend of mine and a mentor over the years had been Ray Charles. So Ray and I were in New York City. Ray was on tour. He happened to be in the city. He got the sense that I was melancholy. I was disappointed. So I explained to him what had happened. Ray sat silent for about a minute. And then I asked him what was wrong. And he said, why didn't you ask me to sing this? He said, you ever wrote a song about your daughter and you didn't ask me? And I looked at him dead serious and I said, yeah, you're Ray Charles. I, that ain't never going to come out of my mouth. So long story short, Ray did the song. Bobby Wooten, who was a Sony producer, produced it with us. And that became a thing. And then I was working in and around MTV at the time. And to get the airplay for the song, everybody told me we needed a music video. So I leaned back on Ray and asked him if he would do a music video with us, which is the first and only time Ray has ever done a true music video. Obviously, there's performance, but not that. So here we go. So now we do the music video. I fell in love with the medium. Here was a great way to tell stories I had the experience of writing, I had the experience of music, and this was the kind of the push it all together. That pushed me into television, and that's where I've been for the last 15 years, kind of doing the same thing, telling stories. And I'm going to pause here because that brings us almost up to current. There's a lot of things in between the television music career, but those are the milestones. And one thing I always like to caution people, because it sounds like there's a Midas touch here. For every success, there's been hundreds of misfires. So I want everybody to understand that as you move forward, don't expect everything to roll out as you think it's going to roll out. You kind of just got to go along with it, stay in touch with that voice in your head, and eventually things will work out. Probably not the way you plan, but they always work out better. So there you go. How's that?
It's fabulous, man. It's fabulous. And it's really powerful how Ray Charles really kind of talked to you like that. It's like, hey, man, you just had to ask, right?
Ray's an awesome, awesome, awesome dude. I wish the world had met him one-on-one. He's a great, great person.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. And it's always great when folks like that, even no matter how much success they create in life, that they always encourage others to still find their own greatness.
Yes, absolutely. And with Ray and many others, I found that to be true. There's a lot who aren't, but I think there's more that are. People get humbled once they appreciate their successes and accomplishments, and then it's always the give back from that point.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's kind of interesting how, in a way, you and your buddy, in a way, helped give back to a lot of folks, a lot of musicians, especially with your books and really helping them to really learn the technology side of it and how that really kind of led you to television.
Yeah, the whole path was just like I said. If I had thought about point A to point B, I would have never laid this the way it went down. It would have never happened. So I'm glad that I just kind of stumble along and take advantage of the moment,
Yes,
much
indeed.
like the podcast here.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Exactly. Because there's like a lot of folks that come on here. Yeah, they have a lot of wins, but they also have losses. And most of them, if not probably 99% of them, are really humble about it. And they are grateful to actually share the stories of just having that chance to overcome.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and I hear that on a regular basis. So I'm glad I can kind of fit into the notch.
Oh, that's right. Get in where you fit in, indeed. You're fitting in extremely well. And in your bio too, it mentioned how that through all your success, it's kind of funny that you mentioned how you had to overcome dyslexia and you're still able to be a folk musician and help write all these books and help all these other musicians. So how was that?
I'm laughing because, again, the time and the environment I was educated in, dyslexia was not recognized as a thing. I didn't apply myself. That's what I was told. I'm lazy. I was told, I mean, all of the negatives. If there was negatives to be spewed at that time, it was given to all of us. Fortunately, it was a classroom environment that academics wasn't really a big deal. But being dyslexic, I just realized that, I mean, not, I'm talking maybe 10 years ago. I knew I learned differently and I knew I did things differently. One of them was, and again, it's I give all the blessings where they belong, is I learned I have an insane memory. I can sit and somebody have a conversation with me. I can be in an environment and not only can I almost do the conversation verbatim, I can tell you all of what was around me. I can say to my left, there was a chair sitting there, and I'm sitting in my studio now. There's a console over here to my left. There's a television over here to my right. Microphone was dead center. Dom said this, I said that. And I'm sure that came from over the years being in a classroom, having a hard time reading assignments. I adapted to memorizing what was being spoken about the assignments. So as I moved on, and I've gone through, higher education, and I had the disability all the way through without any real intervention with it, but it was just an instinctive adaptation to it. So as they say, one thing goes, something else becomes stronger. And I guess that also works for the way we process information.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's really powerful how, even though some, especially back then, they may have not had the tools or the knowledge or the know-how to really name a certain defect by their standards, is an actual advantage for you. Because I mean, an insane memory like that, I'm pretty sure gives you a heavy advantage. I mean, I'm sure there's some disadvantages where you're like, man, that's one thing I want to
fortunately, fortunately, it's not that acute. But yes,
forget.
yeah. I mean, where it came in, and again, if I was in a different era, this might have been a bigger issue. Writing still is a problem for me, but because of all the technology that I'm surrounded by, it's my advocate. It's definitely my classroom aide. It does word changing. It's doing this. I have Grammarly who changes. I mean, it really works out well. It's almost ironic that I became, a published author with a very poor ability to actually write. Even now, it's gotten even better now, where you can do a lot of the verbal text, so you can speak and it'll write for you. So, and then there's all copy editors and such. But again, it's where you are. If this was the 1800s, this may have been a little bit more of a problem. Now it's really a non-event, and I do try to speak to people about. I have nephews who have issues, some of them with dyslexia, and it's embrace it. I mean, it really is cool if you can use it to your advantage. It's a great advantage. It really, there's a lot. I find more assets than I do negatives.
Oh, yes, indeed. You can say that again because it's like the perfect time to have that. Because, like, I remember, I think it was a 20 or so episodes back, we had Dr. Ken Keys on, and he too had dyslexia,
Yes.
and he too is an author. And I'm like, man, it's really just a great time to be alive in, because you're right, in the 1800s, good luck
Yeah,
with
I mean,
anything.
absolutely. But audiobooks and podcasts and all of that is such an advantage. I mean, there was many, I mean, years of my life when people would say, "Oh, you should really read this great book." I mean, I love stories. In essence, that's what I consider myself. I'm just a storyteller, and give me some tools to work in a medium, and that's all I need. But I'm in the really focused singular Joe is a storyteller. So embracing other people's stories was something I loved, but books it was out of my reach. There was just no way I could really get through a a great story in print. But when audiobooks came out, that was the first thing I thought of. Yeah, it's for visually impaired, but this works great for me. So that again is something that is of our time. That's great. Um, Podcasts, radio, any visual audio medium is amazing to be able to do it. And I'm not pushing on podcasts right now, but it is such a great medium that is just coming of age, and it's really coming into its own right now, because it gives everybody an opportunity for a place for them to speak and tell their stories and be involved or host the stories. Whereas before, radio and podcasts are similar. I have a lot of friends at Sirius Radio, and yeah, they're the same, but they're not, because to do a Sirius radio show, you're in multi-million dollar operation. So again, technology has stepped up and really allowed a lot of us uh, windows into things that we may have been excluded from. So there you go. There's no short answer in anything you ask me. Be prepared for that.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. The more you share, the more others learn. Heck, even with all your knowledge, do you think there's going to be a biography that you're going to be publishing soon, or maybe one of your typical self-help books based off your life story in the future?
That's interesting. A lot of people have asked me that over the time, especially a lot of interns that have come along. And once people start to peek behind the curtain and see this, they all ask me that same question. And to date, I just really don't see it as that intriguing. I feel, like I said, a lot of it is not me. So I don't want to ever take credit for a lot of that. I just happened to be a witness to, I was there, this happened. I saw it. I'm more conduit to the opportunity than I am initiating the opportunity. So writing, and I'm not speaking humbly. I am not a humble person, but that's just straight talk from me. Um, it's just real. I am who I am, and I speak the way I speak, no matter what environment I'm in. Um, so yeah, that might someday. I don't know. We're working on a new project now that is sort of kind of the culmination of everything I've done and everybody I've met and the network that I've acquired, network of people. And that maybe would be the legacy, or that might be the biography based on a body of work rather than on my accomplishments. How's that? Good answer?
Oh, yeah, we'll go with good with five O's with that one. Yes, indeed. And if I'm not mistaken, that project is Ferro City, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
Woohoo! My going deeper into that for the folks who don't know yet about Ferro City.
Okay. Most people don't know about it because we haven't put it up yet, but we've been working on it for going on 4 or 5 years now. It. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest for it. Nobody knows what a Reader's Digest is. I'm going to give you the summary version of it.
Don't worry, I know what it is. My dad used to get them all the time.
All right. I'll let that go. Uh, yeah. So anyway, the quick and easy version of it is the entertainment industry, the frontline production entertainment industry, which I've been in various forms. I've always found it to be an old boys network that excludes a lot of really great people and is very exclusionary. And it bothered me that they all, in all aspects, and I'm talking television, music, film, theater, gaming, all of it, they all make buku money on the backs of creatives. And I align myself with a creative more than I do a business. So what I looked at a long time ago and said something has to change here. How do we change the mechanism, the methodology, the business, the music business, the entertainment business? How does that become fair? How do we get the people who actually drive it get a bigger share from their contributions? And then again, technology stepped in front of me and said, okay, we have this internet, we have a lot of digital opportunities, and it's global, which is a big thing that kind of in the U.S. and especially when you get into the metropolitan areas, we kind of become very narrow focused, and we think we are global. When we think of ideas, we think of it, how would it, how does it impact this community? But it's actually the global community. So let's establish that right off the bat. So that's what I set out to do, was how to kind of break the barriers down. And over the years, I've been bringing more and more people in. I have partners that came in from executives at American Express. I have partners that came in from financial network CFOs. Then there's just a ton of creatives from the music, from the da-da-da-da. And we all kind of brainstormed where the problems were and where the stumbling blocks were and where they hit roadblocks in their careers. And that's Ferro City. So we built a gated community that is basically of people of like minds at all levels. And so you have people at the highest level in their industries and people just peeking into the industry to see if there's something there they might want to get involved in. It's cornerstoned in education. I believe there's only two things we all need to succeed. And one is education, and the second is a community that cares about you. Those two things together make success, period. Exclude one or the other, it gets difficult. Because if you're very highly educated and highly skilled in a particular field, but you have no contacts in that field and you don't have true mentorship, it's going to be difficult for you to achieve and advance. In the entertainment world, it's almost impossible, meaning you're not going to get in unless you got a godfather. So, but on the other side, you can be granted entree into the industry, but if you don't really have any sellable value talent, your career is going to be short-lived because you do have to perform and you do have to bring something to the table. So that was the cornerstone of Ferro City. Let's build a community of like minds, people who are vetted, so it's not just coming in to exploit us, and then people who are the creatives, who want the opportunity, who need that education, but let's provide education in the way we know how to do it. And you mentioned earlier, Emmy award-winning producer, myself, writer, but that's another one of those, that's not, I have the Emmys, they're my names on them, but I wouldn't have had them if it wasn't for the people around me who helped me achieve that show or achieve that music score. So that's how this works, and that's kind of what we're doing. But our lessons, and I know I just deviated from that point, our lessons are taught in a way that it's entertaining, and entertainment makes it engaging, and engaging forces retention. And those are the three elements that are baked into every lesson at every level across a wide spectrum of entertainment opportunities. So that was Ferro City. That is Ferro City as a platform. We are launching in the next couple of weeks. There's 3 stages for us to get to. The first is to build our community. We're encouraging people to go to ferrocity.com, sign up, get your email, get us involved. We'll open up a dialogue with you. And then as things transition upward and we start expanding, you'll be in on the ground floor, and then you'll see the community grow. But the community is going to grow driven by the community. It's a very democratic community. And that's one of the things I wanted to make sure happened. It wasn't led by somebody sitting up in an ivory tower, because that's the industry as it exists today. And that's what's wrong with the industry. So there you go. Make sense?
Oh yeah, with all the nickels and the quarters, makes all sorts of sense. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And I love that you're coming from the place of helping out the creatives, because we got a lot of that nowadays. And with especially with the tools of social media, it's easy and difficult to get known. And you're also mentioned something powerful, the power of mentorship, and it sounds like that's going to be a big part of Ferro City.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not, I don't want to get deep into the weeds. I don't want to make this a commercial for us. But I wrote an AI, an artificial intelligence that helps with that, so that the platform's not static. The platform is helping interacting. It gets to know you, not in a big brother way, but it gets to know you, how you learn, what you like, where you want to go, and helps you direct that. Not in the Netflix, Amazon way of, hey, you watch this, so you like this. This is built on my intuition and my mentorship and the way I've learned to interact with people coming in. And I've learned to adjust. Oh, explain something to somebody this way, and I can see they don't get it. Let me try saying it this way. So I've learned that there's multiple ways to communicate. And so when I wrote the AI, I wrote it so it had this intuitive sense. And even on the engineering side, there's a group of people who have contributed similarly into that. We all think the same way. We all feel the same things. We all have the same soul and heart and desire to achieve. So that makes building this a lot of fun and very efficient, because we don't have the conflict of people who are saying, yeah, but you can't make any money doing that. Or, hey, this is wrong. You should do it this way. That colors that. So we all like each other, and we're all very accomplished and talented in our areas. So we're very complementary.
That's what I'm talking about. Talented and complimentary. That way it can have all sorts of great synergy going on. That's what I'm talking about. Indeed. Yes, indeed. And the beautiful thing about those Emmys, it's awesome that even though you're serious not humble, you're able to still thank the folks around you that help you to make that magic happen. So since you're able to get those Emmys for a sports show for the New York Giants, how's it been? It's still part for 15 years, right?
It is that, obviously with the onset of Ferro City, and we do a lot of work with other networks. Some of my partners are working Science Channel, History Channel. That's what kind of taught us how to do complex subjects but make them entertaining. So we're busy, and I'm gonna give direct shout out to the New York Giants ownership. They are uniquely different than any high level corporate executive types I've ever been around. They are truly family. There's a sense of loyalty that is prolific in their organization and through their family, which is why, and humbly and gracefully, I was presented with 2 Super Bowl rings. It's almost ridiculous that I have them, and it really was somewhat embarrassing, but it's a great, great honor that they recognized that what we did for the organization and the way we presented the organization to the media, our shows and the way we kind of put it forward, and also the way my crew, because their studios are actually in their facility. So for during the broadcast season, we're embedded for the most part in the organization, which puts us in with players, puts us in the inner circle, and there's a lot to be said of how to behave and how to interact and how to respect and how to disappear into that environment. And they recognize that and they appreciated that. And this is both the Mara family and the Tisch family. I've been treated as an equal, which again, I look at their accomplishments, their family's accomplishments, and I laugh at being considered, an equal. But again, it's a testament to that family. You've got ownership that sits in a cafeteria and will sit with anybody and have lunch. It's such a great, great learning experience for me. Their father, Mr. Mara, Wellington Mara, I had the great fortune to start there when he was alive, and I watched him interact. I've learned so much from a distance of how he managed quietly. His leadership skills is something I take with me forever. So the rings are kind of awkward for me because they're Super Bowl rings, and I'm a 5'8", 170-pound white kid with nominal sports abilities. And I walk around with this big, huge, I never walk around with it. Let me rephrase that. I own this big bling that takes up a good third of my finger, but it's kind of cool to own them.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's awesome that the family is so kind and that they have the awesome leadership ability to make sure that they just sit down with heck anybody in the organization and that they allow you to be so close and embedded in the organization too. I bet that gives you a real advantage of what to put out there for the public to see.
Yeah, they're very humble about themselves. So when the opportunity arises, I will always boast. I will always tell about, without revealing, without going into storyline, but just as an arc, they are who they are. And it floods right through the entire organization. You can feel it at every level, every tier. And I've been there a long time. I've seen changes in head coaches. I've seen changes in GMs. I've seen, wholesale changes in coaching management. But eventually it all ends up seeking that same level. And everything still has that, you feel proud to be. And we're a very, very distant part of what gets put on the field, but you're still proud to be part of that Giants legacy. And I work with a lot of players around our show, ex-players, alumni, host a lot of the shows we do for Fox and Madison Square Garden, which is out here. It's a local RSN. And you talk to these guys, it doesn't go away. Wellington Mara, there's a saying up on one of the walls: once a Giant, always a Giant. And that extends beyond just the players. So yeah, that's my speech on the New York Giants. It's rare, especially in the entertainment industry. I don't get those opportunities. I don't work with those types of people much at all. We're in the Shark Tank 90% of my career. So that's why I kind of stayed there as long as we did. I tried hanging on to that gig purely to stay in the environment. It was a very cleansing place to be, kind of shake off the dirt and dust of the rest of the industry.
Gotta love it. And one of our past guests and listens to the show, Mr. Matt McDarby, he's a big New York Giants fan, and he just wanted to get your thoughts real quick on if there is one thing you could fix about the team for the upcoming season, what would it be?
Oh, you heard me say I keep my distance.
That's why I said one thing. I asked for anything else.
Okay, I'll give you one thing. Keep believing. Ownership takes winning real serious. They're very, very serious about putting a product that their fans can be proud of. They take that probably more than most, any fan. And it's not that it's the financial part of it. It is the fact that they have an obligation to give their fans a great team. So believe, and believe, and believe. And you see them. They're making changes. They'll adjust this. They give somebody an opportunity. That didn't work. Move on. Let's try this. That didn't work. Move on. Dave Gettleman, who is an extremely close friend of mine. I've known Dave for a long time through my years with the Giants. Believe in Dave. He's got this. He will right the ship. How's that? Enough big blue banter? I was a fan long before I got the gig. I grew up in New York. My dad was, we're the Holy Trinity: Rangers, Giants, Yankees. So those are the three you had to have. You had to wear their jerseys and have their posters up in your room. And for many years, that wasn't an easy thing with a lot of those teams.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I'll even put the Knicks in there. I'm not a big basketball fan. Where I grew up, I was excluded from being allowed on the courts. So as an objective watcher, I enjoy basketball, but never really participated.
I got you. But hey, even though you don't flaunt them, you still got 2 Super Bowl rings, buddy.
Yeah, but I have 3 kids, and that's a problem.
Ah, dang it. Well, I guess sharing is caring. Stop. Woo.
All right. Any direction you want to go, or are we good?
Just 2 more quick questions, then we'll call it a day. So one question been really popular with the guests is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often on interviews like these?
Wow, that's a great question. Rarely do I get caught on the other side not having an answer. I guess I would have to say it has something to do with passion, the drive, believing in yourself and something bigger than yourself, kind of how that affects and has affected everything I've done. I would say that usually gets skirted because it gets, I mean, there's so much story that what's behind the story is sometimes hard to bring into the conversation. So I would say that's probably the question. If somewhere in there is a question.
Ah, there we go, indeed. There we go, indeed. So I guess someone probably needs to ask you what's probably the life experience that helped you to find your passion for what you do, I guess.
Well, I'd have to, again, I got to give respect to my spiritual side because that's been the whisper in my ear for everything throughout my life. And then the other side is I'm fascinated by stories. I'm fascinated by things I don't know, and I love learning new things constantly, which is why my career is as diverse as it is. I love stepping up to a challenge. Usually, when I'm most terrified about something, is when I know this is something I really need to engage in. And I do still to this day get big time nerves about anything I'm about to do because I always want to make sure I do it to the best of my abilities and I don't leave anything on the table. So I guess that would be that answer.
Woohoo! Fabulous with a capital F. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the year of 2020, with all of your amassed knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Get an education and go work on Wall Street. alleviate all the struggles. uh, I probably would tell myself it's gonna work out. Don't listen to all the naysayers. You know better. Follow it. Listen to it. Believe in it, and just keep your ears and eyes open for when you get assigned to shift. Stay true to yourself. That's really it. Bottom line, stay true to yourself. You young 20-year-old Joe.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it. Stay true to yourself indeed. Stay true indeed. Don't be like a pleather jacket. Be the real article. That's
There
right.
you go. There you go.
Yes, indeed. So, for those who want to keep up with what you're doing, Joe, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
Check out, well, you can reach me, but I would say probably your best entree through all of this is through ferrocity.com. That's F as in Frank, ERROC as in cat, ITY.com. Look for us. There's going to be everything I've discussed, everything I am, my career, all of that, plus dozens and hundreds of others that have similar will all be contributing. Maybe we can get Dom to get in on this with us. So that's probably the best way to check us out. There's also ferroproductions.com. That's the actual website for the production arm of what we are. And you can always just email me at joe@ferroproductions.com. I try constantly to stay in communication and I try to answer just about anything that comes my way. But, sometimes the inbox gets a little cluttered and things get overlooked. So hang in there.
You can say that again. Yeah, emails are like rabbits. They just keep multiplying.
I'm going to steal that line, by the way. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Don't be upset when you see it.
Well, there you have it, folks. Head over to ferrocity.com. Check out the fabulosity that's happening over there, especially in the coming days and weeks, because it's going to be fabulous indeed. It's going to be fabulous indeed. So, any parting words to the folks still listening, Joe?
Hang in there. It all works out.
Thanks a bunch for your listening ears on the Going North podcast. I hope you really, really enjoyed that episode. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family, especially those who love podcasts and love listening to some inspiration and motivation.